Joining me now is Jason Stanley, professor of philosophy at the University of Toronto. His work focuses on authoritarianism, on propaganda, on free speech, and on democracy. He's the author of multiple books, including Erasing History, How Fascists Rewrite the Past to Control the Future. Jason, thank you for being with us. You have been very clear on this. You're calling it a coup. You believe we're watching it happen and unfold in real time. This is not a conversation about the future to you.
No, of course not. And it's not subtle. As you say, they're being very explicit about it. So the level to which you can deny reality now is shrinking, right? We've had a lot of time where a lot of the mainstream media has spent a lot of its efforts trying to normalize, trying to talk about political polarization, between authoritarians and democracy. We've had a lot of time where people have spent sort of twiddling their thumbs and pretending this isn't happening. The explicitness is meant to make you feel helpless. They're being explicit now because they want you to feel helpless. Because when you broadcast what you're doing and no one stops it, then it makes anyone in the opposition feel like there's nothing they can do. Because bringing things to people's attention is sort of usually how you stop things.
So this is important because if you recognize that you're reading a script in real time and you recognize the explicitness of it, we still have agency. And while we like to say it's the vote, that should be a given, but it's not just your vote. You and 5 other people need to vote. But you have agency, as we described, to ensure certain safety, or at least the ability to bear witness. We watched it with these ICE raids, right? Random other people recording it on their phones so that you don't have to believe the government's lies.
Yeah, you have to be as loud as possible in this moment. You have to go on the streets. You have to say the things they don't want you to say. Criticize Israel's actions in Gaza. Say they're fascists. Do all the things that they're saying are now illegal to say, because we have an enormous chill in the United States on speech. Everyone is afraid of saying the wrong thing and drawing attention to themselves. Now, that chill is something you have to resist. If the American people resist that chill and speak freely and lean into the statements that they are saying are illegal to say, in the way that Governor Newsom is doing, in the way that various media outlets are doing, then that is showing them that they are not succeeding in their task of chilling speech and instilling fear in the American public.
So let's just talk about California for a second. This is an interesting case. The opposition to Proposition 50 doesn't expand the electoral map. It just says the voters have a right to make that decision. It's probably going to pass overwhelmingly, to the extent that the opposition to it has basically collapsed. They're not even bothering anymore. But this concept that it'll pass, it'll look like a success for Newsom and for democracy, but Donald Trump is already setting up with these election monitors to suggest that somehow it was wrong or corrupt or unfair. That's where we have to resist the problem.
Right. Well, there's a whole sort of creation and facade. I don't think anyone is buying it. It's almost like, I think it's more like they're setting things up. So for history textbooks or something like that, I don't think the American people are buying that elections in California are somehow going to be stolen. I think it's more, I think this regime thinks they have sealed the corridors of power, taken over the media in such a way that Democrats will never have power again. And so they're doing these things to intimidate. They're doing these things to set up an official record. I don't think it's working to change minds. I think more and more Americans are recognizing that we have a fascism problem here, and that it's not about Democrats versus Republicans. Republicans need to be opposed to this too. And I think this regime is saying, well, it's thinking to themselves, and they're certainly broadcasting it. We don't have to care anymore about what people think.
I'm back with Jason Stanley, professor of philosophy at the University of Toronto. Jason, let's just talk about those of us who have some voice and some influence in the media, in academia. What's the danger right now as we're watching this? And I know you can reach back into your history of, Germany in the 1930s. What's the danger of seeing this happening in front of you and hoping it'll go away, it'll sort itself out, and somehow normalizing it?
Yeah, well, normalization is the worst fear we have, is the worst danger we have, to think that, oh, this is what a democracy is. It couldn't not be a democracy. So whatever we're seeing is democracy. That's what they're relying on. So they're relying on the fact that just because you can go to the restaurant, just because you can meet your friends and go see a concert, you will think you're free. And that feeling that you're nervous about what you post on social media, that feeling about the nervousness you have about speaking up publicly about your political views, they want you to think, okay, well, that's not important. That's just, you being careful. Freedom is just, you continuing to get a salary, you continuing to be able to have fun at night. That's the danger, that people then accept that as freedom and start to think that speaking out about their political beliefs, the fear at speaking out about their political beliefs is a normal part of life.
What do you do? What do you tell people for whom the fear is actually real? In other words, it's not just a fear of speaking out, but it's, for instance, Donald Trump talking about running in 2028. What do you make of that? I've got my Constitution, says he can't do it. He even made some reference to the fact that he can't do it. Mike Johnson said can't do it. But Steve Bannon says there's a plan. Not only is he going to run, he's going to win. How do you address things that sound stupid and ridiculous, but you can't really keep on assuming that Donald Trump is just trolling you for fun?
He's not trolling you for fun. Look at what's happening. What is an authoritarian country? What is a autocracy, a fascist regime? It's one where the regime has full control over the narrative, and the people can be as skeptical as they want, but there's not much they can do about it. They're purchasing the media. They're targeting the universities. They're grabbing the courts. In 2020, the legacy media could tell you that a coup was happening. The legacy media could tell you that Trump actually lost. Well, now they own CBS is purchased by Trump's oligarchs. We've got the Washington Post run by a Trump oligarch. So now the Washington Post and CBS will tell you that what Trump is doing is reasonable. So now I don't think people will necessarily believe that. But that's the situation we have. Look at what's happening with the White House. Look at the signaling that's happening with the destruction of the East Wing and the replacement of bathrooms. If you and I were president of the United States, we would be awed by the history of these chambers. We would think it's a privilege to occupy the rooms that Kennedy occupied, that Reagan occupied, that Carter occupied. But in eliminating those rooms and eliminating those spaces, Donald Trump is signaling there is no history. I am the start of history.
It's remarkable. Jason, thanks as always for being here. Jason Stanley is a professor of philosophy at the University of Toronto, author of multiple books, including Erasing History, How Fascists Rewrite the Past to Control the Future.